Hey guys! Welcome back to KF Movie. This time, we're going to talk about the film The Crow, released in 2024. You should know that this film is a reboot of the entire The Crow series, telling the story of a man who is transformed into a god to avenge the death of himself and his lover. Want to know how the whole story unfolds? Instead of wondering, let's dive into the plot. The film opens with a boy named Erik Draven, who has just bought green mussels for his mother. As Erik is about to approach his house, he's shocked to find his beloved horse badly injured after crashing into a barbed wire fence. Erik quickly rushes to help his horse, but unfortunately, his hand gets injured in the process. Meanwhile, inside the house, Erik's mother, known simply as Mom, is revealed to be a drug addict. Because of her behavior, Erik grew up to be a hardened man and frequently used illegal drugs, just like his mother.
You will know emptiness when someone you love dies ever.
The scene then shifts to the present day, where a young woman named Sally receives a phone call from her friend, Zeddy, who tells her that a terrifying video, accidentally recorded by their friend Dom, has been leaked to several people. While the contents of the video remain unclear, it's obvious that both Sally and Zeddy are involved in it. Zeddy then urges Sally to hide, as they fear that others connected to the video may come after them.
Dom shot it. Look.
When Zeddy arrives at her apartment to pack, she's shocked to find a criminal named Marion and his henchman, Coy, already inside her room. The two criminals are determined to prevent the video from spreading, as their boss is also involved in it. To ensure the video remains secure, they incapacitate Zeddy by injecting poison or sedatives into her neck.
Sadie?
Meanwhile, Sally, now panicked, tries to delete the video, but hesitates and decides to flee the apartment instead. As Sally steps out of the apartment, she realizes that she's being watched by a man, one of Marion's henchmen, who is intent on capturing her. However, just as she's about to be caught, she accidentally bumps into a police officer who discovers narcotics in her bag. In the end, Sally is arrested while the man feels frustrated for failing to capture her.
Yeah, we have 10-15.
On the other side, Erik, now an adult, is staying at a rehabilitation center due to his frequent drug use. There, Erik undergoes a treatment method that involves bullying, which is believed to help build mental strength for addicts. One night, while Erik is sharpening a razor blade, he notices a new inmate, none other than Sally. It's from that moment that Erik becomes intrigued by her. Meanwhile, at a nightclub, Marion meets his boss, a criminal kingpin named Vincent, to inform him that he successfully captured Zeddy. Vincent then confronts Zeddy in a secluded place, demanding to know where Sally is. Not wanting to see Sally harmed, Zeddy chooses to remain silent. However, Zeddy's silence only enrages Vincent even more. Vincent then reveals that he has made a pact with the devil, where the agreement involves sending innocent people to hell. By sending the souls of the innocent to hell, Vincent would gain immortality. Vincent also admits that he has killed hundreds of people, meaning he is already very old, likely around 200 years old. Vincent then whispered a demonic incantation into Zeddy's ear, causing Zeddy's eyeballs to instantly turn white. In this trance-like state, Zeddy appeared hypnotized into committing suicide by taking a dagger and stabbing it into his own throat, ultimately bleeding out and dying. At the rehabilitation center, Erik met Sally, who invited him to be friends. From this moment, the two began to grow closer and develop feelings for each other.
Cry now, cry later.
The next day, Sally's mother, Sapaya, visited the rehabilitation center to see her daughter, but she wasn't alone. She was accompanied by Marion and his men. It was revealed that Sapaya was actually working for Vincent.
Yeah.
Sally, who was talking to Erik at the time, was shocked to see her mother arriving with Marion. She then told Erik that if they found her, her life would be over. Knowing this, Erik helped Sally escape the facility through a secret door in the laundry room. Because Erik had fallen in love with Sally, he also decided to run away with her. The two of them then went to Sally's apartment, where they spent time enjoying each other's company. Not only that, but Sally also showed Erik a secret box containing her phone and some cash. Meanwhile, a corrupt detective named Mills discovered Zidi's body, which had been disposed of by Marion. However, since Mills worked for Vincent, he covered up the cause of Zidi's death.
You have a problem.
Vincent, who was looking for a new victim, then received a call from Marion, who was starting to worry that the video might spread. As a result, Vincent instructed Marion to find Sally and Dom immediately, as they were the ones who possessed the video. The next day, Sally and Erik went on a trip with Sally's friends. During this moment, Erik fell even more in love with Sally, and they both expressed a desire to always be together, even until death.
I don't want it to end.
Long story short, one night, Erik and Sally took a walk to a bridge, where Sally began to feel conflicted because she hadn't told Erik about the video. She really wanted to confide in him, but she was afraid he would distance himself after hearing her story.
Working, please.
Of course I would.
So what actually happened in that video? Watch until the end, guys, so you don't miss any details.
All right.
The next night, while Sally and Erik were at a nightclub, Dom suddenly appeared and approached Sally to warn her that Vincent's group would be hunting them down. Upon hearing this, Erik immediately took Sally back to their new apartment. Once they arrived, Erik was shocked to find a group of criminals, led by Marion, who immediately restrained Sally with a plastic bag. They also attacked Erik, and both of them eventually ran out of breath and died. Before dying, Erik dreamed of drowning with Sally. However, in the dream, Sally couldn't swim and kept sinking to the bottom of the sea. Meanwhile, Erik chose to return to the surface and found himself in a river. There he saw an old man walking into a corridor. As Erik followed the corridor, he found himself at an abandoned station filled with crows. Erik then encountered a human-like spirit named Kronos, who explained that Erik was in limbo, a place for those who have died but have not yet been determined to enter hell. This was because Erik had not come to terms with the events that happened to him and Sally, all due to Erik's deep love for Sally. Despite Kronos' explanation, Erik didn't believe it and thought it was all just a dream. To prove it, Kronos pushed Erik into a pool of water, and Erik suddenly woke up in his apartment, realizing that Sally had been taken away. This meant that everything that had happened to them was real. At that moment, Detective Mills arrived. He was ordered by Marion to return to the apartment and search for Sally's phone, which contained the terrifying video. Erik then surrendered himself to Mills, recounting everything that had happened to him. However, instead of being detained, Mills shot Erik in the chest. Strangely, Erik got back up. Erik then fought back against Mills with a knife. And when Mills attempted to kill Erik again, Erik struck first, stabbing Mills in the neck, instantly killing him. Erik, unable to believe that he wasn't dead, then ran to the bathroom and discovered that his wounds were slowly healing on their own, just like Deadpool. Erik then left the apartment and went to the bridge, where he saw a shadowy figure of Sally jumping into the river. When Erik jumped into the river, for some reason, he found himself back at the limbo station with Kronos. It was then that Erik realized that he and Sally were truly dead. However, what confused Erik was why Sally was not there with him. Kronos then revealed that Sally's soul carried a great burden of sin, which is why her soul was descending closer to hell. Kronos also told Erik that he could bring Sally back to life if he was willing to help him. Kronos then explained that Vincent and his followers should not be in the human world, as Vincent had made a pact with the devil. Kronos asked Erik to kill Vincent, and if Erik succeeded, he would be able to bring Sally back to life. Before Erik returned to the human world, Kronos warned him once more that Erik possessed the power of a god, meaning he could not die even if shot with hundreds of bullets. However, this power would disappear if his love for Sally began to fade.
You cannot die.
After returning to the real world, Erik met his friend Chance to borrow a pistol. Once he got the gun, Erik went to Sally's grave, where he sneaked into Sapaya's car and forced her to have a one-on-one conversation. They then had a conversation at Sophia's house. In the conversation, Sophia, who was afraid of Vincent, denied that her daughter was murdered. However, Erik promised Sophia that he would kill everyone responsible for Sally's death. Erik then entered Sally's old room and found photos, letters, and a badge from her time working at Vincent's company, Lex. Without a second thought, Erik headed to the company.
Tak berpikir panjang, Erik pun pergi ke perusahaan tersebut.
Upon arriving there, Erik encountered Lex, Marian's associate, who was sitting in a car. Erik then threatened Lex while demanding the names of those involved in Sally's murder. However, instead of revealing the names, Lex tried to grab Erik's gun. In the end, Erik was forced to shoot and kill Lex with a single shot. At that moment, Erik saw Marian about to leave in his car. Panicking, Erik tried to stop Marian, but he was hit and got caught inside Marian's car. As they were driving, Erik fought back, killing some of Marian's men. However, one of Marian's men, named Joni, managed to restrain Erik. He shot Erik several times, causing Erik to be thrown from the car and eventually run over by a large truck. However, because Erik had become a god, he came back to life, and all of his wounds began to heal rapidly. On the other hand, Vincent went to Sophia's house after hearing that Sophia had just met Sally's boyfriend, who claimed he wanted to take them down. Sophia admitted to this and expressed regret for making a business deal with Vincent. Hearing her regret, Vincent whispered in Sophia's ear, and after being whispered to, Sophia threw herself from the upper floor. Meanwhile, Erik met Dom, Sally's friend, and interrogated him about Sally's involvement with Vincent and his criminals. Dom revealed that he, Sally, and Ziti used to transport drugs for Vincent and party with him until a horrifying event occurred where Vincent did something to Sally.
Shelly had it on her phone. What video?
Curious about the contents of the video, Erik went back to Sally's apartment and retrieved her phone from the secret box. Erik then discovered the video, where Vincent used his power to make Sally stab another woman to death. Although it wasn't entirely Sally's action, Erik was shaken by the fact that the woman he loved had once killed someone. Hurt and angry after watching the video, Erik went to meet Chance and vented about his frustration with Sally hiding her problems. Shortly after, Vincent's men arrived to capture Erik. Erik, enraged by the death of his friend Chance, fought back against Vincent's men. In the chaos of the confrontation, one of Vincent's henchmen shot Erik with a shotgun. Despite the devastating wound, Erik's newfound divine powers began to kick in once again. His body healed rapidly, and he managed to stand back up, more determined than ever to seek revenge on those who had taken everything from him. Initially, Erik thought he couldn't die, but after a few seconds, his whole body began to tremble, and Erik passed away. Erik then returned to the limbo station, where Kronos informed him that because his love for Sally began to fade after watching the video, Erik no longer possessed the power of a god. Not only that, but Erik could no longer bring Sally back to life. However, at least Erik could still return to life himself. Erik, still in love with Sally, then made a final request, offering to trade his soul for hers. He proposed that if he successfully completed his mission, Sally would be brought back to life, while he would remain in the limbo world. After agreeing, Kronos used a portion of his blood to grant Erik much greater power, enabling him to return to the real world. However, Erik was no longer human. Instead, he became a full deity with black blood flowing through his veins.
Just like them.
Upon returning to the apartment, Erik began shooting Vincent's henchmen, successfully killing them all. Erik then took the phone from one of the henchmen and discovered a message from Marion revealing that Vincent would be at the Opera House in 2 hours. Before heading to the opera, Erik darkened his eyes with black ink, transforming into the Crow. Erik then made his way to the opera event, carrying a sword with Upon arriving, Erik began to eliminate Vincent's henchmen who were guarding the area. Meanwhile, Marion started to panic upon learning that Erik had arrived at the opera. Despite being shot from all directions, Erik remained unharmed. This caused the guards to break into a cold sweat, their fear escalating. However, because they had been well paid, they continued to fight Erik, only to meet their untimely deaths. After killing the guards, Erik confronted Marion, who was being protected by Bagong. Seeing that Erik could not be killed, Bagong attempted suicide, but Erik quickly severed his arm and killed him with a single strike. Erik then approached Marion, who told him that Vincent was not at the opera house, but at his residence. Marion confessed to regretting her involvement in Vincent's crimes. However, it was too late for regrets. Erik decapitated Marion and threw her head toward the audience, causing them to scream in terror. Erik then drove to Vincent's mansion using Marion's car. Upon arriving, Erik found Vincent casually combing his hair. However, in a bizarre turn of events, Erik didn't immediately kill Vincent. Vincent took this opportunity to influence Erik's mind by telling him that Erik was fighting for the woman he loved, killing.
It's a seed.
When Erik fell into Vincent's trap, Vincent stabbed Erik in the chest and whispered a demonic incantation. Vincent then tried to absorb Erik's blood, just as he had done with Ziti. However, his attempt failed on Erik, as Erik's love for Sally made him stronger. Erik then pushed Vincent through a mirror, sending them both to the limbo station. There, Erik immediately began beating Vincent mercilessly before Vincent was dragged into the water by vengeful spirits, pulling him down to hell. Soon after, Sally's spirit appeared through the puddle of water. Erik told her that he couldn't return with her to the real world. As Erik confessed his love to Sally, she was suddenly pulled into the water, and for some unknown reason, Sally was brought back to life beside Erik's lifeless body, right in their apartment. This scene really confuses me because Sally should have risen from the grave, and what's even more puzzling is that it was Kronos who saved her, and at that time, he was a police officer. If anyone has an explanation for this scene, feel free to comment below, guys. Meanwhile, Erik remains in the limbo station. The film ends with Erik expressing how his love for Sally will live on in what he does. He imagines Sally continuously living her life, singing. The film then comes to a close. Okay guys, that's the plot of The Crow. I hope you enjoyed the storyline I shared.